Yeah, we
You have
discussed
this
that.
crazy idea of having you do some actual work.
Heidi can do our breakout room, so we just agreed on that one. So we don't have to do it. We just say what we want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this account for some reason doesn't allow co-host. It allows only one host at a time. I already tried. Sarah and I both tried. So I'll be assisting. I hit record. We are recording right now, and then
Cool.
breakout rooms. You tell me how many, and we'll arrange it. And then maybe some of us can remain in the main room here, so we can.
Yes.
We can see the recording with this actual what might happen in a breakout room.
Exactly. That's how we usually do it. We send everybody minus 2 or 3 people into breakout rooms, and then with the remaining people, we do the exercise on video so that somebody watching the recording gets the whole experience. Perfect.
Sounds great. See this? Welcome to Agile Orlando. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yay! So it is 12 o'clock and we're gonna kick it off. Just real quick, thank you so much for being here. I'd love to know, so ping in the chat if you found this meetup through Agile Orlando Meetup, just ping it in the chat. We'd love to know how you found us. So Agile Orlando's been around since 2008 and we've got actually over 1,000 members right now. And so this is one of our virtual meetups that we that we're beginning to hold more and more of, because I'm a fan of virtual meetups and I love distributed work and solving those distributed team challenges. So head on over to agileorlando.com if you want to know more, or meetup.com Agile Orlando link. And of course, today we are in collaboration with Coaching Agile Journeys. I'm also a co-host of Coaching Agile Journeys, and Lori Townsend, Isaac Garcia and Jeff Coors and Mark Kruth are also co-hosts. And so we just share our knowledge. So I'd love if you went over to coachingagiljourneys.com, look at our recordings of past events. We've got speakers, we've got at what we call Agile Cocktails, where we just get together and we chat about topics. Like the latest one was manager's role in Agile. So we just had a cool discussion on that. And yay. So we are going to talk about Agile coaching, witchcraft, and wizardry, discovering your coaching magic. So Christine and Olaf are here with us today, and without further ado, guess what? I want to turn it over to them because they're the stars of the show. So welcome so much. We're so excited to have you here.
Wow, we are excited about the diversity of people being here in this round, ranging from Europe to India over the years. That's really cool. So welcome everybody, and we love to be here with you and to talk about a special topic we're very passionate about since a long time, and we are happy that Sarah invited us to be here in this round, since she also took part in our first School of Coaching in Witchcraft and Wizardry. So she can really report what happened there. I mean, we can talk a lot, but it's also good to have people there who can say, yeah, that's what happened for me. And so it's great to have you as well here. And thanks, Heidi, for co-hosting here for us. Yeah. And
I wanted to unmute myself, and instead I advanced the slides. I wanted to suggest, why don't we give Sarah a minute or two to summarize what made you curious about this course, what you took away, and why you want to share it.
I took the course because my big dream someday is to be an independent consultant going into businesses and changing their cultures. And I did not feel like I had enough self-confidence really to feel like I could go into a place like that and know who I was and know what I was standing for, and basically what I was selling and how to sell it. So that is why I signed up for the course, and I definitely got that and more, I would say.
Great. I remember from our very first conversation, by the way, could everybody who's not talking mute themselves? That increases everybody's experience, and especially the recording. one of the things that I remember, Sarah, you saying in our very first course when we were kind of setting up the thing and talking about what it might become, because it was an experiment. You said that in your impression, when other coaching courses target the skin and flesh of coaching, our approach kind of targeted the bone and marrow, which resonated a lot with us because we're all about metaphors, which you can see from the title of the course if you look closely, and it was obviously a great gift to be acknowledged in that way, and we hadn't realized to what extent we're doing this bone and marrow thing before we got this feedback, and spent a couple of months with Sarah learning what she actually meant. So it was a learning experience for all of us as well. The idea of this witchcraft and wizardry came about in a client situation, actually, when within a big agile transformation, the internal coach and I started talking about a leadership school. And the problem was that the agile transformation was owned by him, but leadership as a topic was owned by HR. So he could not do leadership development. And then we talked about doing a school of witchcraft and wizardry, which sounded innocent in terms of they could offer it to anybody could be interested, and HR wouldn't know. For various reasons, that never took off. We designed a few interesting things. But this idea of having a kind of Hogwarts state, and Christina and I were talking about new offerings we could make, and what difference do we want to make, what difference are we called to make, and the key thing that we work on with all our clients, all our programs, is courage and confidence, and the way that manifests is in business development, rather than talking about agile coaching techniques and coaching techniques in general. I currently can't see Christina. Would you like to add something to this?
Yes. So it's really about, in this course, it's more about realizing your own influence on everything. So getting aware of what you're doing, what you're not doing, and a lot of reflection on how you see things, what kind of perspective you have on things, and diving into those topics which are really very slow sometimes, which are blocking you, and getting more and more that picture of, yeah, that's where I want to go, even if you don't if you don't have a clear picture at the beginning, or if you also change the picture during the course, but you're really very in connection with your heart desires, with where you really want to go. And that's where the group is holding the container for whatever wants to show up. So it's also diving into the unknown, and really daring to do that, and being supported by individual coaching and by the group at the same time. And that's wonderful to see how that plays out for the people then.
Yeah, I fast forwarded to the slide which depicts the basic structure and idea of the course. And as you were using this metaphor, diving into the unknown, that's a key ingredient of deep learning. Basic frame of this picture we stole from a book called Riding the Creative Roller Coaster by a guy called Nick Udall, whose work we like a lot. He leads a company in the UK called Nowhere. And the way we adapted this for this course is that we started out, can you see when I'm moving my cursor like this? Cool. We started out creating this safe container so that everybody felt part of a group that was supporting each other, having each other's back, understanding each other, being able to disclose ourselves, talk about stuff we usually don't talk about, that kind of safety and trust. And in terms of content, we started working out, what does my magic look like? When my work is like magic, that's like what? This is something that we're going to do later as an exercise. What's my confidence like? I remember Christina's confidence is like an elephant, and my confidence is like a palm tree with a multicolored trunk of liquid stuff that makes it very flexible. And so we worked on metaphors for things like courage, confidence, and magic, so that we could kind of lean into these things and start embodying them, feeling when they grow and wither, so that we are closer connected to things that usually tend to be theoretical concepts rather than things we feel and we can talk about and we can manipulate with these thoughts. And then once we established the container, we dove into this unknown and looked at the shadows we are facing. What are the money issues money beliefs that are holding us back? Doing a thing that we call a clean slate, which is part of the Temenos work. And then after this, let's say, valley of tears, coming out on the other side with a lot more confidence, courage, and magic, with the group strength, with the individual insights, with letting go of the stuff that's holding us back, and then working on practical things like, what's my unfair advantage? What's my unique selling point? What is the product that only I can sell? What's my ideal customer? And how does an ideal sales conversation look like? So we had actual practice sessions of sales conversations to sell our unique unfair advantage to a potential client. That's the basic structure of the course that we designed.
Yeah, and maybe let's go to the topics we have during that course, so that you can see which kind of specific topics we are deep diving. And so like Olaf started with our first topic, which is so what is meant by the specific magic you're having. And it's not like we are answering this question already in the first 4 weeks. It's like it's like we're starting that question and we are coming back to that question later on as well, because it also needs some thinking of, okay, what kind of magic would I like to have and what I'm having at the moment, or it's not so clear at the beginning. So that's something which is growing throughout the course as well. And a lot of, and the second topic, you see, it's a topic which is not so easy. It's the discipline to stay on the things you really want, and your own principles, and how that really grows your confidence as well, and to really see that coming into place in your day-to-day work, staying on your objectives, staying on your visions where you really want to go, and acting out this discipline, whatever that is, and exactly for you. And then we are going to that personal vision and our unfair advantage, and to see, okay, where do I want to go exactly? So you're bit by bit you're creating that picture in your mind. Okay, what's exactly what I want to strive for, and what is my unfair advantage? And the unfair advantage session was one of the most wonderful sessions we had throughout the course. We did it a bit later, so we didn't hear it on the third point in our last course. We did it more or less in the middle of the course, and everybody reflected back the unfair advantage of every participant in the course, and that was so wonderful, because everybody went glowing after a while, because you got so much information about your unfair advantage and what is the special thing you have exactly. But that works only out if you have such a close connection with people and such a diverse group, because also in the last course people came from the US and Europe and different kind of backgrounds, self-employed and then inside of a company and different kind of positions. And yeah, that was really real magic. And we always record those sessions, and then you can also play back and listen to it again. And that's so cool. So if you're feeling not in the position of that you could market yourself really good, you can go back to that to that session and get back this magic from the other people, the observations they had about you, and this is really pushing you in front and giving you a lot of support in doing what you really wanted. Maybe I had over now for abundance and money. So abundance also was a wonderful topic last time. So maybe all of you want to talk about that.
Yeah, many of us are growing up in a culture of scarcity, of thinking we are not good enough, we don't have enough, and yeah, thinking with limitations rather than options and opportunities. And to me and to many people I know, this is especially true about money. So that we don't dare to ask for instance, for a higher day rate because we don't think we're worth it, or we don't know how to argue for it, or we think the other people will think we're greedy, or there's so many beliefs around this and so many things that hold us back. So these conversations were really helpful because of these beliefs, and also because of practical strategies, like what is the way you can calculate the value of your influence in an organization as a coach, so that you can argue, for instance, for higher day rates or for different kinds of payment, etc., etc. So there are so many things that people just don't know, because we're used to be consultants for a rate that is based on the time we spend, where for coaching it should be based on the value we generate, because the difference is not the time we spend. The difference is the commitment that the client puts in, plus the space that we can create so that they can change their perspective for a strong intention and strong accountability, etc. So rethinking the frames for how we ask for money, how we think about money, how we think about the specific value of our work, that is a key ingredient of the course, and also a key element of sharing our experience and our strategies around this. And in the end, this money thing is just one example of a shadow that holds you back, that you need to start loving, start integrating, start appreciating, and then through integrating it, overcoming the resistance, overcoming the impediments, so that you can reach the next level in freedom, but also in effectiveness in a business kind of sense. By the way, this doesn't need to be a monologue or a dialogue between Christine and me. As soon as you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'd rather have this a conversation sooner than later. I'll just show the second page. I think I've mentioned these things already. One thing that we haven't mentioned yet is the collaboration competition thing. It's a difference if you view yourself as collaborating with your client and collaborating with other people working at your client, working with your client, versus seeing you in competition. One thing that has surprised me all the time, all the years I've been in the Agile community, the Agile market is growing so much faster than the number of competent people who can offer services in growing agility. But still, most of us seem to feel as like sharks in a small tank, and being more busy with eating, trying to steal each other's food instead of just looking at the amazing pile of potential work that we could be doing and the potential influence we could have in the world. And this is also about changing beliefs and mindsets, but it's also about knowing strategies to be successful, to have the right kind of conversations with the right kind of people, and setting up your options in a way that is conducive to collaboration rather than kind of paying into this competition game. I'm not sure there's so much more upfront thing. I would like to touch on the topic of magic. There's another drawing that we have here, which is this was basically back of a napkin thing at a dinner conversation. It was in fact drawn on an iPad, but that's why it's not very nice. But Scott and I, we had a trio of people leading this course, Christine and me and our colleague Scott Downs. And Scott and I were talking about magic and about our different interpretations of the word, because he said magic is a metaphor, and I said, no, magic is not a metaphor. and we had this conversation of what do we mean? And I said, well, it sometimes happens when you work with people who haven't got Agile, that you have an effect that you don't understand in the moment. You're just following your intuition, you're doing something, and then you go like, woo, what happened now? Significant change in perspective, in mindset, in whatever. And suddenly someone gets it, and suddenly something happens in the organization that 5 minutes ago nobody would have dreamt of being possible. And that's magic. Magic, by definition, is something that we don't yet understand how it works. And then he said, oh, that's interesting. So how does it work? And then we were looking at another drawing from this Nick Udall roller coaster book. And we're basically reframing it. So this is supposed to be a bow and arrow. And the bow is created by our welcome. So we welcome everything. We welcome the reality. We stand in the reality of the client's situation more than they themselves do. And we understand their intent. We have an intent, and we stand with their intent. We understand what they want at a level that at least brings them to more clarity, and maybe even has us at a higher level of clarity that they have in that moment. And this is the bow, and then we draw back the, what's this thing called, string? We draw back the string into the unknown, because our tolerance for unknown is a lot higher than theirs. So we can pull that string a lot farther, further. And then we cast a spell when we let go of that arrow, and then magic happens. So that was our heuristic, sense-making explanation of what magic means and how it is actually created. And as you can see with this unknown thing, and the topic of safety that I already mentioned, and this form of this roller coaster is very similar to the form of this string in the bow. And that's the key ingredient of, I think, of coaching in general, but as an awareness topic of our work, that we create containers where people can face the unknown, dive into the unknown, and experience the tensions, the creative tension in the unknown in a way that they couldn't do without us. So this is also a key part of the value. And yeah, I think as a kind of introduction, there's a book about showing up that we've written that's available on LeanPub, and the growing kind of nascent book on leading with intention about our leadership courses. And that's Christina and me, but you're seeing us live now. So that's the slides we have. I'd like to leave this as an overview for a bit so that we know what we're talking about, but I'm really curious, before we go into a practical exercise, what would you like to take out of this session? What would you like to know? What are you curious about?
Can you go back to the bow and arrow thing?
Sure.
Or yeah, I guess the bow part. So yeah, I guess we're going to find out how you create that spell. Like that middle part, is that where we're going to get to find out now? Because that sounds really neat. I want to know more about that part. How do we create that spell?
Oh, yes. That's a great question. That's a part of the metaphor that I personally have not explored in great detail yet, but I'm totally happy to do that now. Mm-hmm. So we use a lot of clean language in the course, and the clean question to ask this when somebody explains a metaphor like this is, so what kind of spell is that spell? And my answer would be, or will be, it's either a thing you say that demonstrates or exposes your perspective to them in a way that they can relate to it, because they are deeply in the unknown, so their usual perception filters are a little blurry or a little out of focus or out of tune, so they don't really work. And because they're with you, they didn't notice that, and they're not afraid. So that something you say kind of reaches their brains in a place that is usually not accessible to your words or to something you do. So they are perceiving something that happens, and this could be something they do, it could be something that you do specifically. If I say spell, it's probably something I say or I do. And they perceive it in a way they would usually not perceive it. So in a normal environment, they might say, wow, that's weird. Or they might say, whoa, how can you do that? Or they might say, they might not even notice it because it's like outside of their expected range of things that can happen at work. But because of the context, because of them feeling so welcome, because of the whole group being very clear in the intention, and because of us being in an unknown space of curiosity, the thing you do, the thing you say lands in a way that kind of gets them off guard and has an impact that is only possible because of these conditions. Does that make sense as an explanation?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
And this is exactly the kind of conversation we have in the course. So thinking about our work, thinking about what we do, using metaphors to kind of dig into these hard to explain bits and ask curious questions to understand, like, what happens when you do this? And the invitation in the exercise later will be, if you remember a situation where your work felt like magic, because it had this effect of something happened and you didn't understand it, but you knew you wanted it, you knew you did it, so but you couldn't have explained how, and that's like what? So it's probably not going to be like a bow and arrow. It might not be like a spell, but it might be like, I don't know, it might be like a rabbit, it might be like a wave, it might be like a plane, it might be like a volcano, it might be like, yeah. And you can use the richness of metaphors in stories like Harry Potter to think like, oh, sometimes I do something that's like apparition, and people end up in a different place than they were before. And sometimes I do something that's like shape-shifting or whatever. So you can use that as a kind of source of inspiration to think about your work. But the real magic starts, the metaphor magic starts when you find your own metaphor, when you find something that you can really step into and feel in your body.
So would you say part of your course is exploring individuals, and do you do it with activities and challenges to kind of test scenarios, or how do you go about finding this magic? Because I'm kind of thinking that the context of your course and what you're doing is great, and what people come away with is like a new vision for themselves and confidence and the ability to sell themselves as a coaching consultant and know what their uniqueness is and stand out. How do you, like, what type of way do you approach that?
Well, the first way is just what I just said. So I don't know if it was the very first exercise in the course, but it was definitely one of the first exercises in the course, that we were specifically asking each other the question in pairs. When your work is like magic, that's like what? And then I can briefly explain the method. I don't know if we want to do it right next now or soon. I need to find the chat. There's the chat. So there are two questions you ask about the things you hear. So you help each other in pairs. First you ask the question, when your work is like magic, that's like what? So person A and B in a pair in a breakout room. Zoom supports breakout rooms. So at some point, somebody who is host of this meeting is going to send us into groups in pairs. Some people are going to stay here so that one conversation will be recorded. And then person A will ask, when your work's like magic, that's like what? Person B will answer with something. Say, I answer with a bow, arrow, spell metaphor. And then you could ask, what kind of spell is that spell? Or is there anything else about that spell? Or is there anything else about unknown? Is there anything about pulling back the string? Is there anything about welcome? What kind of intent is that intent? So you're digging into the words they used. You're not rephrasing, you're not interpreting, you're just providing them with a space. This is called clean language, by the way. Providing them with a space where they can explore their thoughts, because they don't know yet what they're thinking. This is kind of exploring the surface of the subconscious or unconscious knowledge. And you don't want to interfere with them understanding themselves. That's why we're using these clean questions. And in the course, to go back to your question, we've done this for magic, we've done this for confidence, we've done this for courage, and we've repeated it so that everybody had a strong sense of, oh yeah, this is what my courage looks like, feels like. This is what it's like when it's strong, and this is what it's like when it's not strong. This is when it's available to me. This is how it is when it's not available to me. And as soon as you have that kind of metaphor and that kind of embodied sense of connection to it, it increases just by having that, but also you can regulate it in a way that is that was unavailable before. And other parts of the course work with homework. So for instance, each of us reflected on their coaching history and their coaching learning journey and their growth journey as a coach, visualized that journey on a piece of paper or iPad drawing or whatever, and shared that with the group, so that there was a deep understanding for each other, the deep knowledge about each other created by having us reflect our history and our biographies and our influences that made us who we are as coaches. So we're using visual methods as well, and there's several parts in the course where some homework was created and then shared in our weekly meetings. What was astonishing to us was the amount of trust and safety and just belonging that was created in a group of 10 people that never met in person.
So, Olaf, do you recommend the course for only consultants, or would you also recommend it for anybody that's a coach at a full-time at an enterprise?
Our assumption before we did it, when we designed it was for consultants, but it turned out to be interesting for people who are not consultants. Some of those were not yet consultants, so they were employed with the intention of becoming independent, like Sarah. But others were not independent with not the intention to be independent. So I think it's definitely useful for anybody. Another thing that we said, I don't know if you've seen the website of the course, it's still mostly the website that we set up before we started it, so it hasn't been fully revised yet. One of the economic frames we started with was invest 10% of your income and double your day rate, so that people have an idea of what's part of the intention of the course, and also what's the kind of expected investment. And we wanted it to be flexible for people's budgets. But it turned out that this 10% of my income doesn't really work for many people. So different people made different choices in terms of price. Some said, I pay 2,000 now and 2,000 if it works. Somebody says, I pay 4,000 now and decide on how much I top up after I see the effect. And now he paid, I think, another 2. Somebody said, I can afford 500 per month, and that's all I can spend. And somebody else said, we're just founding a company together, but there's 4 of us, so if we all 4 join, what kind of thing can you do for us? So that's been flexible, and also that added to the diversity in terms of these whole questions and business development were more interesting because we had different kinds of people in the group. Sarah?
Yeah, I also, Lori, I'm internal to a company, and although I hope to become independent someday, I'm not there yet for multiple reasons. And I definitely feel like taking the course and understanding my own magic and having confidence in the way that I work absolutely helps my day-to-day coaching and the way that I interact with others, because now I feel more grounded and secure in who I am and the way that I work. So when that's questioned in my day-to-day, I don't question myself as much as I used to, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's terrific. Thanks.
And
Yeah,
that's also supported by the individual coaching we are doing. So so there are this, we meet weekly. We have monthly sessions on those topics where we start the topics and then we deepen the topics in the weeklies. And in the weeklies, there also always gets you compare what you really do in your day-to-day work with the content of the course, and then you combine that, and you see where you are and where you're getting to, and then in the individual coaching sessions, you can dive deeper into one of those topics where you see, yeah, I want to explore that more, or I want to understand it better, or I want to have a better, clearer picture in that topic, and that combination of that, you can individually choose when to have your coaching session, and the weekly sessions, that really helps bringing you forward very quickly on your own plans and targets and visions.
Great.
I stopped the screen sharing because I want to see you all and get a gauge at how many people are on the call right now, because I'm noticing we have 25 minutes left and I would really like to have the practical exercise. Mm-hmm. So how about we move into breakout rooms of 3? That creates the safety that if somebody has a problem with the breakout room, if somebody doesn't have a good audio, or somebody can't start video or whatever, that there'll be at least 2 people who have a working connection can have a conversation. And we take 10 minutes, so that either in your group of 3, you have 3 minutes per person to address each individual's magic. In a group of 2, you would have about 5 minutes per person. Reminder, you will still see the chat, but it's probably a good idea to copy the thing that I just entered about the when your work is like magic. That's like what?
Okay. Yep. So if I break, people are dropping off. I think they may not want to join. So you can stay on and not join your breakout room and just stay in the main room if you wish. Looks like I can break.
Anything else about that?
What's that? Oh, okay. So I'm going to break out, let's try it with 7 rooms. It says 3 to 4 participants in each room. If you don't feel like joining, stay in the main room. And open all rooms.
There's at least one person here who is willing to stay and who also has video on, so that we can...
Yeah.
Heidi, are you going to stay?
I'm going to stay. And
cool.
Olaf, are you going to stay as well? So I'm
yes.
going.
Yes. Okay, cool.
I just moved, let's see.
This is like magic too. I do know how the technology works. I know the people who develop this stuff, but it still feels like magic to me.
Okay, so I'm going to move Isaac, move to breakout room 6. I am going to move, I'm moving people around because some people are just alone.
Yes.
Move people to breakout room, let's see, 2. Okay, so Lori, I'm going to move to breakout room 2.
As you're doing this, would you mind Jenna and me starting to talk?
Not at all.
Cool. Jenna, when your work is like magic, that's like what?
Hi, Olaf.
Hi.
When it's magic, you don't know, right? So.
And when you don't know, what kind of don't know is that don't know?
Right. No, it's sometimes you pounding, and some kind of spark creates in the room, and I feel I actually rewarded when somebody in the room or within my team trying to think alike or even repeat my phrases and on my idea that maybe I shared long time ago. I think that is magic, because we're trying to propagate the idea constantly, but we seeding our idea within a room, within audience, and recognizing our audience, either it's leadership or a team, we reward it when your idea transition and materialized and become not your idea, but idea of your group and team. That's my.
Yes. So you said spark. So when there's the spark in the room, and then later you notice that people have picked up your words and repeat what you said, and you have seeded something. What kind of spark is that spark?
I feel when spark, it's truly when I've seen people repeating my phrases.
Mm-hmm. People repeating your phrases. What kind of phrases are those phrases that people are repeating when they have been?
Well, sometimes, sometimes I feel that I'm pounding on think small and think big.
Think small, think big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes people do not really buy because they don't understand, right?
Yeah.
Then, in the same time, when I feel the idea transformed and we are really focused on and do laser focus on something really small, but materialize in bigger deployment, and our release become more tangible and valuable for product owners. And by the way, I'm not independent. I'm Agile coach in enterprise, and I'm working with multiple teams. And those kind of rewarding moments I receive when my coaching opportunities materialize within leadership words or with the team. So.
I heard you say think big and think small. Is there anything else about this big and small when you say think big and think small?
Right, because when you think small, you have that laser tangible focus on something, and it's where agility comes. Your mindset focused on something small that potentially materializes in something big. So if each of us only focus on what I coach team, it's mindset, right? We can't really, swallow the big chunks. We have to be laser focused on something, and hopefully our effort materialize in bigger releases or bigger effort that creates big value. So either you're working in SAFe or in scrums where you kind of coincide big chunks, it's your opportunity to see the big picture. But when people work on small tangible pieces, they don't necessarily understand whole picture sometimes. When they do, I certainly appreciate. And then it's small piece materialize in big stuff, right? It's where you basically create the invitation for conversation and compromise your thought about thinking small, but you materialize your big opportunity to talk big picture. So I don't know if I kind of conveyed properly my thought, but that's
absolutely. And I'm just going to, because this is the recorded conversation, I'm just commenting a little bit on what's happening so that people can kind of understand it, debrief a little bit if you want. You've been using a lot of metaphors. You started with the spark, you used the word seeding, now you talk about materialization. When you were answering the question about big and small, you said small things, small chunks, big picture. So these are all different words that stand for something else, which is the very basic definition of metaphor. And the interesting thing is when we use these questions to explore these metaphors and to look at our individual and contextual meaning of the words in this context, we understand a lot about the assumptions, the expectations, our subtle interpretations of things. And these conversations generate so much meaning around what we do that they have this effect that is also magical in a way, because they raise our awareness so high in such a short amount of time. And as soon as I have this kind of awareness, So for instance, in an earlier conversation today, I was in leadership training today, and we did an exercise like this in that training. And I mentioned that when I'm leading at my best, I'm flying above the system, and I'm going down to see details, and I'm going up to see the whole, very related to your big and small thing. And the guy I was working with asked me, and what kind of going down? It's like going down. I was like, wow, I've been using this metaphor so often. I've been explored by people with questions with this metaphor so often, but nobody ever asked about the going down. I was like, I'm kind of going down. I'm following my instincts. I'm following my intuition. And what intuition is that intuition? Yeah, it's like, what do people want? What are the subtle things I notice about tensions in the system, about curiosity, about what's so getting this awareness of what's making my work and what's making it special, that creates the opportunity to improve it in totally new ways, and to use that awareness to also show others how we do what we do, which is part of what being an agile coach is all about, right? To get everybody to have awareness of how they work so that they can improve it, and to get the Scrum Masters to get to understand how they work so they can improve it, and then get to explain to others, etc. And this increase in awareness and understanding, that's what is magical about this kind of coaching work and this kind of business development work that we're doing in the course. And welcome back.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to build up on your previous phrase. Obviously, you have limited opportunity as agile consultant to understand and calculate your value over time and influence if you consult for the short period of time, because you can't really do retrospectives for your provided coaching opportunity, right? Unless you will be invited again, just to do retrospectives on your coaching. And when you're doing actually agile coaching with enterprise, with your patients, you see those seeds coming along across, and you kind of understand, and you can digest your coaching technique over time. So how you actually strategize and actually change your strategy based on maybe provided feedback, because sometimes it's hard to understand, did you provide value or not? That's my...
So there's so many ways you can think about value, but we could just demonstrate a little one. So given the time you invested so far, 45 minutes in this course, the people who are on video, could you indicate with a thumbs up or thumbs down if this was worth investing your time so far? So I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 thumbs. If I'm assuming that the choice you're making is to either earn money during this time or do this course, what you have invested now is, and I'm just assuming a day rate that leads to an hourly rate of about $100, right? I could already say you have made the choice to invest about $100 of not earning into having this learning experience instead. And if you have a meeting at a client where a lot of well-paid people sit in the room, and you facilitate that meeting to be effective, and you ask them at the end, was this effective facilitation? Was it a good meeting? Was it better than average or worse than average? And you just give them a off the back of your head calculation of what the amount of salaries invested in this small time is. And then you can think about, okay, so we have now in this meeting, we've decided the strategy for your department. The department has 50 people. These 50 people could spend their time on doing something important. We just made sure they do. So the salaries of these 50 people of about a month work is now well invested. And we know that this is going to create value for the company. Without this meeting, it might have been half the value, because we would have done something, but not the most important stuff. So you can just, without knowing too much about the actual numbers, you can just make up a heuristic that shows people that you can easily create a value of tens of thousands of dollars in an hour just by facilitating a meeting to be effective. So if you're asking for a day rate of a couple of $1,000, that's not much money compared to the difference you can make if you do your job well. And my strategy is not being able to calculate the value of everything I do, but to put the question of, am I too expensive when I ask for 3,000 euro a day off the table, because in any given situation, I can just make up something that shows everybody, okay, it's really helpful that he's here. And the helpful has a value that is not in the same order of magnitude as the money he's asking us for. And that's making asking for 50% more a lot easier. So the point is not that you can give somebody a spreadsheet that exactly calculates why your day rate should be X, but it's about when you currently ask for X and you want to ask for 2X, that they, after the conversation, they think 2X is ridiculous. Yes, he's definitely worth it, so go for it. That's the kind of strategy when talking about value and money and the work and our day rates. So it's not about having a really rock solid, scientifically proven formula for Olaf should earn this exact amount of money per hour or per day or whatever, or the value he's generating in this project is 48,000 euro and we're going to give him half of this. That's not the point. The point is to give people a perspective that shows that as coaches, our work is independent of the time we spend, and it is not really in the same order of magnitude as the money we're asking for. Does that make sense?
It is. It is. And obviously, when we are coaching, we hope we'll be invited again, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you're kind of trying to build up that relationship and strategize your work a little bit to create repeatable clients.
And one last bit of advice on the money thing. If you ask for money and you don't occasionally have a client who says you're too expensive, you're not asking for a good enough rate. Very, very simple. As we have about 10 minutes left and so many people came back from, I hope, interesting conversations, would you like to share what happened? What was it like? What difference did it make?
And we also need to maybe save some time for questions on the course as well. So
sure.
Yeah, so let's have 1 or 2 feedbacks and then go back to the questions.
Anyone want to share how it went in their breakout rooms?
I can jump in. I had a great breakout session with Azza down there. And what's interesting to me is we both came to the same essential definition, I think, of magic. Hers was a beautiful sense of harmony on the team. And mine was a similar word, but a little bit different, of unity and the team working together really to create magic in a sense of for me, it's each individual person doing their part. And what happens when each person does their part and does it to a high level of professionalism, intentionality, and passion, what happens is it creates a result that when one person sits back and goes, I wonder if I could do what that person on that team did, the answer is no way, because as a team, they are generating such a creative force. It literally looks like and is like magic. And the example I have for that I've seen in my lifetime is Riverdance. If you've ever seen Riverdance, all those people dancing in sync with such passion and power and poise all at one time literally is like magic. And so in my mind, if I can help a team to begin to dance in their space like they do in Riverdance, then I feel like I've helped to create some sense of magic. So that was our discussion. It was really good.
That's awesome.
Wow, love it.
Thanks for sharing.
With Riverdance, you can feel the rhythm, right? So whenever you're kind of out of sync with the rhythm, you can like, oh, wow. Slower, faster. I'm all for sound and rhythmic metaphors, because my mind works like that much more than with visuals.
Anybody else who wants to share what happened in the breakout rooms?
Yeah, I'll share as well. I was with Craig, and the concept of clean language is actually new to me. So I've gone through much coaching training and have a pretty tenured career. And Craig brought me up to speed and actually took the side of going through clean language and bringing out my uniqueness. We didn't actually talk on a team or what magic happened with a project, but the metaphor that we came to is creativity. So it was pretty cool stuff. I learned a lot just by being in the room with Craig there.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, so let's open up the, if you wanna, we have still some 5 minutes. If you have still some questions, I think there will be some questions in the in the space here. So what didn't we cover in our explanations about the course? Are you already convinced? Are you coming all?
Oh yeah. Do you have specific groups that you keep on a schedule and you start at a certain date and you follow that class all the way through, or is it like a rolling type of thing? How does that work?
So we just have closed the first coaching round, the first cohort. And so we're going to start the next one in end of September, beginning of October, as soon as we have 10 people together. So so normally it's like, yeah, everybody reserves a space. We have on our webpage, we've got you can apply for the course. And the application is meant in a way that you reflect on your intentions about the course and where you want to have it, and just explain for yourself why it's going to be useful for yourself, and what are your goals you're going to follow. And then as soon as we have enough people, and we have already some people who are inscribed for the next course who say, okay, I want to really do that, and also some people from our Leadership Academy. So we have a Leadership Academy, which is where people meet and where we have also virtual conversations. And after that academy is done, people feel like, yeah, I want to stay in that cool space here with other people. I want to learn, and I want to bring that now more to my business. And then they sometimes hop to the coaching wizardry course, because they say, oh, that's so awesome, I want to really get to the next level. And so some people already signed up for autumn. So the next cohort will start in autumn. And we will do a first call end of September, and then see whether we can start away in the next week. So the first call will be, there's no costs for sure, so everybody can just see who is in there, and who is going to participate, and then the next one will be like, yeah, am I decided? And then what kind of money do I like to spend for this course? And we're not like, yeah, you have to pay everything before we're working with you, but yeah, and then we just agree with each other, and then after the second or third call, yeah, we then talk about, okay, what are you going really to pay, and then we have an agreement with everybody.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
You can just experience how agile we are, because I just noticed that our website is not up to date. It still says that the next cohort is starting in May, while we just told you that it's starting in October, but that will be changed too. Yeah,
we decided, since we are both overbooked at the moment, so we're covered with work at the moment. So we just said, oh no, that's going to be too much stress. As much as we love our course, but we also want to have time for it, and we want to have enough coaching time, and we are full with clients at the moment, so it's so we said, oh, now it's more reasonable to bring it to autumn and October, and so that's we said, okay, this call is wonderful then, because it's just in time then.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. So we're have 1 minute left, and so just wanted to thank you so much, everyone who came via Agile Orlando, Coaching Agile Journeys, and Twitter, and any other method. Thanks for joining, and I guess we'll see you in a couple of weeks again if we have another virtual meetup happening soon.
Yeah, I love that you're doing this. This is an awesome format. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and for your interest. I'm guessing you'll find us through one of these links. You can also write to us at Olaf or at Christina at trustterminals.com. Find us on LinkedIn, etc.
Great. Thank you so much.